everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa Alistway, and on this channel, you will find a variety of inspirational and informational videos. So if that sounds good to you and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. My guest today is Dr. Gustav Kuhn, who at the age of 19 was a professional magician and went on to earn his PhD in psychology. He is now a reader at Goldsmiths University of London and director of the Magic Lab. He is one of the pioneering researchers in the science of magic and the president of the Science of Magic Association. His latest book is called Experiencing the Impossible, the Science of Magic. Welcome, Gustaf.
Thank you for having me on your channel.
Yes. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the bio that I opened with?
No, I guess I think you covered sort of like most of it quite thoroughly so far. So great.
Awesome. So I mentioned in the bio that you are actually a magician starting at a very young age. So can you share a little bit with the audience where that passion and desire began and what that experience was like being a professional magician?
Yeah, well, I started off, I got really into magic when I was about 14 at that time. I mean, a lot of children get into magic then, but I think I took it a little bit more seriously with my friend Tori. And I grew up in Switzerland, and during secondary school, all we did was just magic. My big aim at that time was to become a professional magician. And at the age of about 18, I then moved to London to start a career as a busker. I was very much into street magic at the time, but I failed my career. I wasn't that successful. It's very hard to make a living through magic. And I then got more attracted by psychology. So yes, back then I really tried to learn about psychology and learn about how people think to improve my magic. And that was my main motivation to study psychology at university and then engage in a PhD.
Awesome. So let's get into it. How does magic work?
Well, magicians don't have supernatural powers. Instead, what they do is they basically exploit lots of the our psychological limitations and biases, and they use these mind hacks to manipulate how you experience the world. So, for example, misdirection involves manipulating people's attention, and they've developed very powerful tricks that allow them to prevent you from seeing things happening right in front of your eyes. So they use a whole range of psychological tricks to distort your experience.
Yes. So that makes me think about with the invention of AI and machines and how they might be using magic. Can you talk a little bit about the link between AI and magic?
Well, there's a close link, I think, kind of like between a lot of AI and sort of particularly kind of like our human computer interaction and magic. I mean, as we are talking here, I'm looking at a picture of you and I feel that that's real. I feel like you're here. Of course, you're not really here. This is just pixels lighting up on my screen. And that whole user illusion that we experience and that we're so used to when we interact with our computers and devices is based on very similar principles in that we experience this illusion as something that feels very real. When you turn off your computer or you swipe something on your tablet, that feels real in the same way that the magic trick feels real. But of course, it's not. And in the same way that magicians use psychological tricks to manipulate how you experience your real environments, computer programs have developed clever algorithms and computer programs that allow you to experience some of the things that are presented on the screen as being real as well. So I think there's quite a close link between the two.
Yes. And it definitely leads into some ethical concerns in the future. I mean, people are already being, wondering, like you said, if who they're talking to on the computer is even real or that person is real. We have the fake bots and all that type of stuff. So ethically, I think this is going to be a whole new area of study when looking at how AI might be using magic on the public.
Yeah, and in terms of misdirection as well, I think sort of when you're searching through your social media feed or searching something on Google, advertisers try to misdirect your attention in a similar way that magicians do. So I think there's a close link there as well.
Mm-hmm. So magic is an entertainment business. So obviously we enjoy it. So can you kind of dive into what makes magic so enjoyable, even though we're being deceived and misdirected?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because with magic, I mean, generally, intuitively, we feel we don't enjoy being deceived. And why would someone choose to pay money to be lied at? But I think magic deals with some really fundamental questions in psychology, and it taps into some fundamental cognitive mechanisms. Because when you're seeing a magic trick, you're experiencing something that doesn't make sense with your worldview. And I think that can elicit a lot of curiosity. And there may be an adaptive reason as to why we are so drawn to things that we don't understand. So even from a very early age, so in infants, if you show an infant a situation that doesn't make sense to them, so an object that disappears, they are very attracted to this. And I think it's likely that our fascination with magic results from some of these deep-rooted mechanisms that attract us to explore things that we don't understand yet. And of course, that makes adaptive sense, because if you've got an organism that tries to explore things that they don't know yet, that helps them to learn about sort of things that they don't understand yet in the future as well. So our enjoyment for magic may actually be based on sort of like a deep-rooted mechanism that attracts us to exploring things that we don't understand.
So when we experience magic as a child versus experiencing it as an adult, what are some of the differences?
Well, magic allows you to experience things that you believe to be impossible. And it creates a conflict in our minds between your worldview, so the things you believe to be possible, and the things that you are experiencing. So that's your perceptual experience. And so given that magic relies on these two components, these are two components that will change with age as well. So if you look at the belief aspect first, a child has very different beliefs about the world. Like my younger children, some of them, they still believe in magic. And so for them, if they see a magical event, that doesn't create this conflict. But also your perceptual experience changes as you grow older. So the way that we perceive the world is dependent on our beliefs about the world as well, because as you may have experienced when you're looking at visual illusions, our perception relies on us interpreting the world in a certain way. And again, children have different beliefs and they have different experiences of the world. So they will actually see things differently to the way that we see things. And so given that there's two factors that vastly change as we grow up, children will experience magic very differently, which is why children's magic and children's entertainment perform very different set of tricks to the type of tricks that we perform for adults.
Most definitely. So what is magic and what is not magic?
Well, can you elaborate on that? It's a hard one to.
Well, how would you define what's magic?
For me, in magic, I mean, it's a very interesting question. I mean, magic has been around for us for so long. I think people have been performing tricks for thousands of years, and yet the scientific community and the academic community have only recently started to examine this experience of magic. And so defining magic is actually very difficult. But as a psychologist, I think of magic as this conflict in beliefs. So a conflict between the things you believe to be possible and the things that you're experiencing. Now, there's times in which, I mean, in terms of tricks, like we're constantly tricked. Our whole experience of the world is a huge illusion, but we don't go through life going, oh, that's a magic trick. It only becomes magic if we create this conflict. So I think at the center of magic lies this conflict between the things we experience and the things that we believe to be possible.
Okay. So when people, they like to, like you say, maybe have more magic in their life, or it basically comes down to how they're perceiving their life.
I think so. I mean, I guess the term magic is used in so many different ways. Again, the type of magic I'm interested in is magic where people know that what they're seeing is not real. And I think that type of magic is quite different to the kind of magic, also the way that magic, that people often use the term in terms of sort of like something magical. I mean, I'm quite often asked, well, have I ever seen any real magic? I don't know how to answer that, because I personally, I don't believe in real magic. I think there's sort of like some sort of scientific explanation for most things. I may not know how it works, but there's some explanation. But so you can have two people who watch the same phenomena, and for one person that might be real magic, for the other one it may be a trick. Like it's it's all based on how you actually interpret these things. And so that means sort of like this distinction between what some people call real magic and secular magic or stage magic is very subjective.
Yes, yes. So there's definitely a business of exploiting people with magic, and we see it in lots of different areas, whether it's in business or in personal lives. There's people that, may be gullible or what have you, and believe magic without understanding maybe the science behind it. So can we delve a little bit more into the neuroscience of magic?
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean by neuroscience? I mean, what do you mean by the neuroscience?
So like how we experience magic internally, like so that we know it's an illusion, we know we're being deceived, but what's happening inside with like our brain and our nervous system and so forth?
Yeah, so we did a study back in we published a paper in 2009 where we measured people's brain activation whilst they're watching a whole range of magic tricks. So these were magic tricks in which I performed, like for example, I'd make a coin disappear or something levitate. And we tried to identify the neural areas that were specifically involved when they were watching these types of tricks. And what we found was there's two specific areas, one known as the ACC and the other one as the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. So these are kind of like frontal areas in the brain. Now, what's interesting about this is that these are generally areas that are responsible for processing other types of cognitive conflict. So as we are talking here, I'm trying to focus my attention on you, but there's lots of other things that are going on around me. So someone might be ringing the bell in the back. And so that creates a conflict between what I'm trying to attend to and the thing that is automatically capturing my attention. And it turns out that those kinds of conflicts activate similar areas in the brain as we find with magic. And so what this seems to suggest then is that really at the essence of magic is this conflict. In this case here, it's like a conflict between beliefs, but it's got a very similar neural structure as you do for other forms of cognitive conflict.
Okay. Now, who would you say is some of the best magicians out there?
Oh, that's so hard. It really depends a bit on what kind of magic that you like. I mean, I love Penn and Teller. I really enjoy Darren Brown. Derek Del Gaudio has performed a beautiful one-man show. So, but it also depends a bit on what I'm looking for. So I might watch a magic trick where I just want to be entertained, or I might watch a magic trick or magic performance where I want to be amazed by some of the technique that the magicians are using. So it very much depends on what I'm actually looking for in a magic performance.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Houdini?
Yeah, well, I never got to see Houdini, so but Houdini's he's a very interesting character, not just kind of, I mean, for several reasons, kind of like his escapology, but mostly also his showmanship and his battle with the world of spiritualism as well. So he's a very multifaceted character who's definitely contributed hugely to the art of magic.
Yeah, he's one of the earliest ones I can remember as a kid learning about. I'm not sure of like a lot of magicians before him that had such popularity. Maybe there was.
I can't think of anybody who was as popular worldwide in magic. I mean, I think he was also just very good at building this mass hype and using the media to promote himself as well. So he was very successful. He was one of the sort of most successful celebrities. And the fact that, I mean, everybody knows who Houdini is, even 100 years later, really is testament to his success.
Yeah, and a good point of that is he couldn't, succeed in his magic alone. Obviously, he needed the media's help, to create the illusion that was taking place before people's eyes. Yeah. What are your thoughts on David Copperfield?
Yeah, I mean, again, David Copperfield is amazing. I mean, again, for me, when I grew up in magic, he was my big hero in magic. And it's amazing how he still goes on. I mean, I think David Copperfield is the person, the entertainer who's performed for the largest number of live audiences. I think he's performed for over 50 million people live, which is astonishing. And he's still performing pretty much twice a day in Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
So when he had like the jet, remember when he had the airplane and he made it disappear? What is the magic behind that?
Well, I can't really reveal his secrets. That's not up to me. That's not.
Did he put up a big black sheet? Like what happened?
I'm afraid I can't really reveal that without destroying the mystery, and that's not my place.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So you have a magic lab. Can you share a little bit about what you do in the magic lab?
Yeah, so the Magic Lab is involves students and researchers actually from all over the world. And we generally use magic as a way of understanding the human mind. And so we've got a whole range of projects that we do. So some of our projects look at misdirection, how you can influence what people see. Other projects look at forcing. So forcing is a principle that magicians use to influence your decision making. But we then apply that to other areas as well. So in well-being, so we've got projects looking at magic and well-being. And more recently as well, we've actually been trying to turn it around. So most of our research uses magic as a way of studying the human brain. But what we're doing now is seeing how we can actually use psychology and neuroscience as a way of improving magic. So we've just about to publish a book, which is a textbook for magicians and sort of used as a way of highlighting some of the scientific theories as well and how that can be used to improve magic.
Oh, so some of the secrets we can find out in your book.
And well, the secrets you can find out is you can find us anywhere. There's no big secret about magic. I mean, if you really want to know how a trick is done, you just Google it. So it's not for me to explain how the tricks are done because all of those secrets are out there anyway. But we're not interested in the secrets themselves. We're more interested in the psychological mechanisms that underpin the techniques that magicians use. And that's often actually a lot more interesting than the secrets themselves.
Okay, so can we talk about some of those psychological interventions?
Yeah, so one of them, so I've been working for many years now with an organization called Abra Academy. So Abra Academy are an organization who use magic in a team building context and to teach people soft skills. And we've actually been using this for a lot of our undergraduate students at Goldsmiths, where we teach our students how to perform magic tricks amongst lots of other things. And what we found is that learning to perform magic tricks can enhance people's esteem, but it's also a very useful way of connecting with other people on the course as well. So we've just published one of the first randomized controlled trials to scientifically demonstrate how learning to perform magic can make you feel better about yourself, sort of like for general well-being as well, but also kind of to build community, so to connect people amongst each other. So I think, well, I mean, we're very much at the beginning of a lot of this research, but there's a lot of potential to use magic to enhance people's well-being in lots of different domains.
Oh, wow. That could be amazing. That could definitely be, I can see how that could be used, maybe even like helping people with depression or anxiety or any of those types of things.
Yeah, and it's quite a quick intervention as well. I mean, one of the things that's interesting about magic is that when you're watching a magic trick, you see something that feels impossible and you have no idea how it's done. And also you feel that there's no way that you'd ever be able to do this yourself. Now, becoming a professional magician is difficult. I mean, I spent about 15,000 hours practicing magic. But they are tricks. These are often known as self-working magic tricks that are very easy to teach. And so what we've shown is that within about 15 minutes, we can teach someone to perform a very simple magic trick. And then when they perform it, they get a very positive reaction from their audience. And then that can actually make people feel that they can overcome obstacles in the future as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's a lot of interesting, I think there's a lot of interesting therapeutic areas that we can tap into through magic.
Oh, most definitely. And I'm glad that people are starting to see that as a link.
Yes.
What about increasing creativity? Does it seem to have that effect as well?
Yeah, I mean, this is another area that we've been looking at. There are some papers that have shown that like watching magical content can enhance people's creativity. So these are studies that are being carried out in children. So in the past studies, children were asked to watch video clips of Harry Potter that include magic or non-magic, and actually watching the magic made the children more creative. But also learning to perform magic seems to have a positive impact on creativity as well. And it is something that we're exploring in the lab at the moment.
Okay, so it seems very beneficial. Is there any downsides to learning magic?
Well, I guess there's a link to crime and deception. So
Well, yeah,
throughout history, I mean, there's a lot of the techniques that are
sure.
used in magic can be used to exploit people as well. So, and I mean, I think this is always something that's slightly in the back of my mind. I mean, yeah, especially like some of the forcing principles or the misdirection principles. I mean, they can be used for good, but they can also be used for bad.
Yeah, so we definitely need maybe a better educated society with regards to how magic works so that they don't fall prey to, a psychopath who might have learned some of these tricks.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Most definitely. So we're kind of coming here to the end. Do you have any like final thoughts on magic that you would like to share with the audience?
No, I mean, I guess it's sort of like for our big mission is to illustrate to the public that magic is not just a simple form of entertainment, but it can be used to tackle some really big and important questions in science. But hopefully also now that we're understanding more about the psychological mechanisms that underpin magic, that we can then start applying this in lots of different domains as well to help people.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Kuhn. I appreciate you coming on my channel today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, and if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be alerted to when the next video drops. Thanks for watching.